If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp, the sponsor of this episode, is here for you. BetterHelp offers a broad range of over 20,000 licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Plus, you can get 10% off your first month with my code, betterhelp.com/Koller. With BetterHelp, you can talk to your therapist in a private online environment at your convenience, and all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs before getting matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions, plus you can exchange unlimited messages and everything you share is completely confidential. As a mom constantly working around Jaden's toddler schedule, having my weekly therapy online has been a complete game changer and a huge reason why I have made big steps to better my mental health for myself and for my family. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Don't forget to use my code to get that 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Koller. That's better, HELP.com/Koller. Hello and welcome to Koller Commentary. Today, you guys are in for a treat. I have invited guest Stephanie Kim, aka Trasuni, aka my college best friend, onto the podcast so that we could just reflect on a decade and a half of friendship together. Times when we were super close, times when, life stages and things might have drifted us apart, but overall, how we're able to still say we're besties for the rest of us. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Steph. I feel like I am like fangirling on the side.
Hi, Eunjee. Should I call you Joey or Eunjee or Josephine on here? What do I say?
Actually, yeah, that is something that's quite new because while we are very good friends, I have been doing this new Joey thing. And so, so Steph probably might not actually know who I am today. So even that, right? Even in these life transitions where we are miles apart, we can explain new identities to each other.
Yes.
But for the podcast, I do go by Eunjee because I do want to just speak to our Korean American community.
Okay. So that's perfect because I know you as Eunjee. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here
Yeah.
again.
I'm so happy to see your face like twice. Well, actually, we're supposed to do this in person,
Yes.
but since you are just living your life, I will not be seeing you for quite a
I
while, but at least
know.
we have the virtual world.
Yes.
So the point of this is for us to have this space to reflect on friendship. But I think also something I've learned is that over the years, there are a lot of times where people, either they grieve the fact that their friendships from the past might not be as close today, or right as like adjustments happen, life stages, transitions, so do our relationships. And so how do we deal with that as well?
Mhm.
And so I think you're just this perfect example because we were quite inseparable in college, I'd say.
Yeah.
We also had potential breakup with each other, and then we went to different states, and we are in different seasons ish,
Yeah.
and so I think it's helpful just to see how do we choose to still be there for each other.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been looking forward to recording this for weeks. I was talking to Christy
Let's
about it. I was like, I have so much to say, not only about Eunjee and my friendship, but just about female friendships in general. So I have a lot
Yes,
of thoughts
and I'm a
there.
little bit scared to hear what you say because over the years, Steph's words have become more powerful, if I can nicely put it. And sometimes I get scared, but I'm excited. I think I can receive that, and I think that's the point of this friendship. And like you said, female friendships that can challenge and empower one another.
Yes.
So let's bring it back to the beginning, and let's both talk about how we first met.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think you and I have the same recollection of it. It was at a house
Mhm,
party the summer before
mhm.
college.
It was my very first alcohol party
Oh,
ever. It was a
wow.
big
Okay,
deal.
Miss Goody Goody Two Shoes over here. It was like my 50th probably at that point.
Shout out to Max Cho, actually. It was his house party. And we connected because at that time I was going to be a public relations major, and so were you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
And
that is why
we
we
both
made the
had
connection.
August birthdays. I think somehow the August birthday was something that, oh
Yeah, we
gosh, yeah.
connected on multiple levels for sure. Yeah.
Right.
I remember seeing you very distinctly. And I also remember seeing a lot of other Christian Korean church girls like taking sips of alcohol, like hush hush. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I was like,
Yeah, I think I think that's another good topic to have on here at
oh
some point,
yeah.
and I
Oh, we
think
could
your
definitely talk about
perspective would
that.
be really helpful.
Yeah.
So, did what was our I guess, like I didn't know we would be friends in college, but at least we connected at that party.
Yeah. I don't think
And then
I don't think it was a thing of, oh, we'll be best friends forever instantly, that
yeah,
type of thing. It was just, oh my gosh, hi, like cool, you're gonna start freshman year, UT, me too, PR,
yeah.
woo. Yeah.
Oh, and now that I think about it, so then at the orientation for PR is when I think I saw you again, and I think I might have said hi then, and that's when we were supposed to grab
That's kind
lunch.
of ringing a bell. I remember distinctly running into you on campus, like the first week of school. And you were wearing like a tank top and shorts. I remember that really clearly.
Was I?
Yeah, it was like really hot, and I remember you looked really cute. I think you had like sunglasses on, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, hi!" And you're very bubbly.
Okay, so that must have been the same incident in different fogs of what that looked like. And then we were gonna eat lunch at which? No, not
Yeah,
which
San no,
one of
no,
those
Pita Pit, right?
pita pit.
I don't think that's there anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, and so we sat down, and that was our first like deeper connection.
Yeah.
And by deep, it was me just kind of like telling you about my heartbreak story.
Yeah, you had a whole word vomit of just, this is my
Yeah.
life. This is what's been happening the last year or so.
Right. And I think that year, if people know me or parts of my story or like different shifts or why I even chose to go to quote, quote, my very first alcoholic party as a Christian, right? It kind of does tie to some of those things. And I think for some reason, I was excited to share that with you.
Mhm.
But for you, and I felt like we connected on that lunch date. But what was your perspective at this random person sharing their feelings?
Honestly, it wasn't negative at all.
Okay.
So,
Okay. That's
okay,
good.
actually, I want to tell you this. I don't know if I ever have. One of my
Mm.
earliest memories of you, and I don't know if this was at Pita Pit or maybe another lunch or something, is you so early on in our friendship in the conversation told me I'm super insecure. Like you just said that. And I
Mm.
remember thinking the opposite. I was like, the fact that you can say to me, I'm super insecure and I'm very self-conscious about X, Y, and Z, it left a huge impression of me. Like, wow, first of all, she's very open, she's very self-aware, and she's very vulnerable, which I don't think at that by that point I had met other teenage girls who just say, I'm actually really insecure. Because nobody wants to be
Mm.
insecure, you know, but you were so open about it. And I remember that left a very strong impression on me. I was like, oh, she's
Mm.
very vulnerable with me, or just very accepting of who she is and her flaws. I mean, everyone is insecure, but nobody wants to say it, especially at that age.
Mhm.
And I remember
Mhm.
you said it so without even having a hard time. And I really like that about you. That's my one of the strongest memories I have.
What I liked about you was that you ate a lot and I like to eat a lot. And so I was like, "Oh, this is fun." Because sometimes there's like they're like, "Oh yeah, I like to eat a lot," but then like you don't really eat a lot. But I was like, "Oh, Steph actually eats a lot and like she's true to her word." And then you started having stomach problems later. So,
Yeah.
but at least
Yeah, we
initially.
just ate unhealthy stuff all the way, 4 years through
Yeah.
college.
But I appreciate that you did remember that and it wasn't something that scared you away because I think at that season of life, I needed girlfriends that could accept where I
Hmm.
was. And maybe I was doing that because there was no other place for me to trust someone if they wouldn't, be okay with where I was. But yeah, I think that just hearing that back, I'm like, oh, that's right. Cause that was a place in time where I struggled with that
Yeah.
more. And you heard that in a positive way,
Yeah,
which
it
is
was
something
really
you are
moshi-so.
really good at.
Yeah, for me.
In terms of some of our initial impressions of one another, a really moshisa moment I received from
Hmm.
you was when we
Yeah,
went to
let's talk
Norebang.
each other up because we're gonna tear each other down in a few minutes. So,
Oh, I'm about to tear you down right now.
okay, go, go.
Which is also probably why you wanted to break up with me later.
I want to hear. I want to hear. What do you have to say?
No, remember when we went to Norebang? It was you, me, Kelsey, and Hannah,
Okay.
and I had never had soju before. I don't think.
Hmm. This is
And
probably one of those days where I had a really bad hangover, like my first ever hangover. But keep going, keep going.
Yeah, yes, yes. So my first party was Max Cho's,
Hmm.
and then like, I didn't like really dabble in much after that. But me, you, Hannah, and Kelsey were getting closer,
Hmm.
and we went to Norebang. And then at Norebang, it was like it kind of like the Koreans, how like Koreans are like 얼마나 해,
Yeah,
like
yeah. How much can
how
you
much can
drink?
you drink or
Yeah,
whatever.
the competition.
Maybe that can be one of your reels.
Right down,
But
right down my list.
you were like, I can have like two bottles.
Yeah, I remember talking a bunch of shit. Like,
Yeah, and I was like, "Wow." Like, no, because, like, I didn't really know at that time. So, like, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Steph is so much." She's so which means, like, really, like, what like, she looks
really cool.
cool, she looks
Yeah.
like a cool yeah. And then that night was just a
I
total
absolutely, it never in my life have I been able to drink two bottles. I don't know why I thought I could. And I remember that's still to this day one of the worst hangovers I've ever had. Like, I
Yeah.
actually died, I think, for multiple days after
And
that.
wherever your dorm was, we all went back to your dorm, and then it hit everything I think it hit
No, it
everybody,
was
and then I was like,
Kelsey's
"What?"
dorm.
Oh, Kelsey, one of someone's
Yes.
dorm, and then we had, like, the mattresses on the
Yes.
floor. And I was talking to, Jonathan at that time, and I was like, "Hi, can you pick me up?"
Uh,
Uh, but I think in that it was like and it wasn't even like you tried to hide anything. I think you were open to in your own ways. Even though you probably didn't have like vulnerable stuff to share with me right away, like you were open with me and just like who you were, and like even in your hangover times, like sometimes people wouldn't like lean on others quickly, and I think that was something I appreciated because as an Enneagram 2,
mm,
that like feeling of like you trusting me to like show me different sides of you and like us being able to like make mistakes together, be silly together was something I felt was a step closer
yeah.
because it was still trying to navigate who are your friends as freshmen in college where you're kind of scared of what that crowd or what your group looks
Oh yeah,
like.
totally. I mean, college is already a
Yeah.
really scary place unless you're already super
Yeah.
affiliated into like a Greek life or something. Friendship
Right.
and the different cliques and I don't know, scenes, groups, whatever, hobbies, it's hard to navigate friendships for sure.
Yeah. Any other impressions or kind of lumping it with how you would describe our friendship in college?
When I think back to our friendship in college, the best way I can think about it is it's so youthful. And I know that's such a
Yeah.
obvious word, but in a good way. Like we were stupid, we made mistakes, we were super immature, but we were also so happy, so energetic. We weren't ever on a schedule. We probably missed a couple of classes, did bad on
Yeah.
tests or grades, tried to study, partied, tried to be, good, moral, Christian, faithful girls, like all the spectrum of everything we tried to do. But I feel like we did
Yeah.
it with a lot of fun. We tried to have good high spirits, even in the really dark times. So it's like when I look back on college time, especially in our friendship, it's really happy memories for me, even the bad stuff, because it's just like a part of your teens and your 20s. And I feel like we really lived the quintessential teens, 20s life in that way. Dorm life, apartment life,
Yeah,
sharing
our
furniture life.
sophomore year, I think both of us, sophomore year, we're going through our own darker year, and we slept over each other's apartments a lot
Yeah,
that year. I think that was like just having like a presence of joy, even when it was like hard. I think
yeah.
I remember that being like, wow, it's not even like we have to like we make effort, but it just like, yeah, you were put in my life in a season when I think that was what I needed, and like oh, you want to sleep over down? And like we would just like eat ramyun together or like,
Yeah,
you know,
and just for you all to know, Eunjee had a queen size bed pretty early on in college. Like she got that from someone. And so
oh
whenever
yeah,
we
yeah,
slept
yeah,
over, like Eunjee and I would sleep on the same bed. Like that's
yeah,
how
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like cute and comfortable and I don't know. It's such a sweet time if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you think we were ever codependent? Because I
Probably
don't
to
think
a degree. Not
probably.
not unhealthily though, because I feel like I would remember if
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
really unhealthy. But
right.
yeah, and you and I both had boys. You know what I mean? Like
All the we had a topic of boy all the time.
yeah, like we were committed, but we also really liked boys. So whether it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
to
yeah.
someone or like we were always looking.
Interested
Yeah,
or
because I feel like true
crying about.
codependent girlfriends, they literally don't even date guys. You know what I mean? They love each other
Mm,
so much, platonically. and just
But that's
love hanging out
enough
with
type
each
of
other and just do everything together versus you and I'd be like, okay, bye. He's texting me.
Oh my gosh. Actually, that's right. I think we were like for a lot of life, we were kind of parallel. Even like studies, we were both like we wanted to excel studies wise, but yeah, we didn't take it too seriously, or like we were down to
Yeah.
like study and hang out or
Yeah, yeah,
something. And
yeah.
like
I
I
think
think
so.
those were times, so it always felt like full, you know, like we weren't always trying to just do one thing. And by then I also transferred to business school, so we weren't in the same
Right.
school anymore. But I think that
Classes.
was also nice because we like had each other after the day of wherever we
Yeah.
were. So then that was helpful too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote fun. I just remember fun.
Yeah, same.
Any specific college memories that stick out?
Oh gosh. I mean, the biggest memory I have is I think you were my first friend who was very good at gift giving. And no one in my family is
Mm,
like that either. So that was also very new for
mm,
me because I think my high school friends and I, we did gifts and I think we were okay at it, but I remember thinking you excelled at it and you really cared about it. So that's
mm,
like a lot of the distinct memories of, I mean, you just being thoughtful and either, I don't, even just like grabbing me food from somewhere before coming
mm.
to the library or coming to the dorm, things like that. Just like those little gestures is something that, yeah, I feel like I always look back on too.
Do you know what I'm gonna say?
No, I'm really scared.
Well, one, I said I remember, I try to think of specific memories, one being I think our senior year, because our birthdays are a week and a day
Hmm.
apart. And so I just remember like I think we had matured a lot from freshman year to senior year, and
Okay.
just like our choices and different things. And we
Yeah.
just went out, took each other out for our birthday together, and like had like a reflective dinner.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. I even remember
And
the
yeah,
photo we took. It was a terrible photo.
yeah,
The very
yeah,
orange.
quality bad, yeah, everything. I don't really care, but Miss Content Creator over there probably is like, "Ew, never again." But I think that was just like the history of like a lot of the mistakes we made, or the immature. Because I feel like the problems I had with boys was so immature and like insecure still, you know. And like
Hmm.
you would tell me straight if something was like, "And you're thinking too much about something," but
Hmm.
you always accepted where I was at, and I just and at that point was a very mature place for both of us in
Mm.
our own struggles. And I think that was like a cool way to like just remember that those 4 years. But another memory that I will always remember is when Steph tells stories, as you guys can probably see from the reels as well, she loves to spit facts, right? And so like you just feel like you're gaining knowledge in conversation, and I love it. But one time we were,
Oh
I think it was after one of our
no! I know this damn story. You can
can I
tell
share
it.
it?
Go for it.
It was one of our sleepover mornings. We were walking to our different classes, maybe like we're about to say bye, and then we're just like talking because we loved carbs together too. And then you're also like maybe giving me like a health lecture or something, like you know we shouldn't eat this many like donuts or bagels or something. Like bagels have like I think no, it was donuts. Donuts
No,
have
it
like
was
1,000 calories.
bagels, which is worse
Bagel.
because I
Well,
think donuts
yeah,
actually have more.
something where like no, but I remember. Okay, so basically, she was like, let's say bagels. Like bagels have 1,000 calories, and I was like, what? How do bagels have 1,000 calories? That's like almost like the whole meal for the day. And she's like, well, like you know how they squeeze all the bread in the
I was like, you know how
bagel.
it's a really dense spread? That's how all the calories are in there.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't even," and of course like bagels and donuts are not good for you.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't even know how many calories were in there." You know, I was like, "Yeah, we should really like watch what we eat." And then like I'm in class like on the internet as well, and I'm like, "Oh, like I wonder what how much this is." You know, I wasn't trying to fact check stuff because I always believe
Yeah, I
her.
don't think
But
you
I checked
were.
yeah, but I was looking up something, and it's like 264, like something like 200. I was like, "Oh." So like I like screenshotted that to Steph, and I was like, "Hey, it's not 1,000 calories." And for some, it was just funny because then she didn't text me back for like an hour or something, and she was like, "I was like, hey, did you get my text?" And she was like, "I'm embarrassed." It was just really funny, and I think it was like, you know, in all of those, yeah, there weren't like I don't know, it was so
Okay,
funny. I
wait,
think like
wait.
that's
This
like a
brings up
top
another
memory.
memory for me.
Okay.
So, context here is I am not an athletic person, and I also don't
Yes.
enjoy watching or playing sports. I mean, I'll join the hype when it's a big game, but other than that,
Mhm,
no.
mhm.
And Eunjee over here is the opposite. Like she likes playing and watching, multitude of sports, and you like games in general. And I remember you really encouraging me because you love me and you're like, I want to spend time with you. I want to do things with you instead of just like laying
Hmm.
around watching Friends all day. Let's go play
Which was
basketball.
fun.
Yeah, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, I do not want to play basketball. And you begged me so much, like very frequently. And I remember one game you somehow convinced me to play, and I begrudgingly played. And every time I was able to like catch the ball even or even pass the ball to someone, you would look at me and be like, good job, good job. And yeah, I'm still the same person, never playing basketball, but I feel like you could probably still coerce me to do it. But yeah, that's also a
Yeah.
strong memory I have. That probably happened like max 3 times.
You did football too once.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you
You
also
just
pushed
have
me.
such good height, like your body is great. Oh, you did swimming, right?
But it's just anytime there's a ball involved, balls
Yeah.
don't like me.
Yeah.
Balls and I have a
Yeah.
very interesting relationship.
Yeah, but even in that, you always supported when I watched the Mavs. You always tried to
Yes,
get into
I
it. And I
did.
think
I,
that's
I would
something.
like ask you questions. Who's
Right,
playing? Okay,
right.
what? Tell me about like, why do you like him?
Yeah, I was like, I thought you don't like sports, but you were always engaged for Hannah and
Yes, I
myself
tried.
in a way where I think it did give us ammo sometime to like make fun of
Yes.
you for it, but also appreciate you for it. Okay. Aw,
I know,
so
so
many
many good memories.
memories.
Feel so fuzzy.
But something that is very clear is I think when we became friends, I at least thought we were very similar. And with any relationship in general, you start to notice, oh, people are different. I'm like, oh,
Mm,
we're not as like not aligned in we were aligned in values, but just like aligned in terms of like core things, and
mm-hmm,
aka I'm hinting at the Enneagram, right?
mm-hmm.
And something I talked about with you before was that you are an Enneagram 7 and an Enneagram 2, which is what I am, often can get mistyped for one another because they are very friendly, outgoing, and like optimistic types, like cheerleaders for each
Yeah,
other, right? And so I think those things were how we so easily became friends with one another. But I think there are times where we did have some differences, and for type twos, it often is because like there's like this focus on feelings and needs and wanting to like be that selfless person, and that could also sometimes actually fester like bitterness or resentment if
mm-hmm,
you're not like appreciated in different ways versus like for a 7 that's actually not their core or their main motive.
mm,
For sevens it could be like if you have a great emptiness inside, you do want to fill that, you want to create stimulation and fun, which
mm,
I think also was an embodiment of our friendship.
yeah.
And so I'm just curious as we talk now about like what were some similarities but also more so differences about each other that maybe we learned to accept, actually learned from each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with similarities first, and then I'll share what I
Mhm,
thought felt was different, and then I'm curious too, like from your perspective, what that looked like.
mhm,
But the similarities, I think, were the obvious ones. I think we were both fairly like bright people and positive
mhm,
people. So in that sense, I felt like we clicked right away. Like for instance, we're sarcastic, but still in a pretty bubbly way, if that makes sense. It's different than like
mhm.
Michelle, like my sister, like different type of humor. Like our
Uh-huh,
humor
uh-huh.
code, I felt like was similar. Like we were interested in stuff like that. We also really liked a lot of the same things. I know I just talked about sports not being one of them, but like
Mhm,
we anytime there was an event or like whether it was for church or something where someone had to make a video or like just something that was in
mhm,
regards to being creative or like taking action and being more involved, like I feel like you and I were always really excited about that.
mhm,
And I also think our ability to talk about like relationships with guys and boys and the heartbreaks and the hardships there. I never felt like what you told me or what I told you, like it never felt, oh gosh, that's so bad.
yeah,
If anything, I felt very advised from you. And I think that's how
mhm,
you felt from me. So I felt like we were very eye to eye in terms of like the values of relationships. So a lot of those were very similar in my perspective of us. The biggest difference, I think, for me, and I think what I struggled with in our friendship was, and this is so funny because it kind of relates back to Tristuni content, but I felt like you were very Korean in the sense of, which is funny because I think in a lot of ways I'm more Korean than you. But in this
mhm,
way, you were
mhm,
very Korean in terms of like back then, I don't know about now because I feel like we haven't dealt with this now, but you didn't really say what you meant a lot of times.
Mm, mm,
So
mm,
I
mm, mm,
remember one
mm.
time, I forgot, we got in some sort of argument or something. Maybe I hurt you. I can't remember, but I remember you telling me, Steph, like just because I say okay or something, it doesn't mean I'm like I want you to keep asking me or like keep trying to make
Uh-huh,
like
uh-huh.
help me instead of just saying okay and then
Mhm,
walking off. Like, oh, we're good.
mhm.
Cause, and I remember thinking, wait, like, why? And I think looking back, I think that was just the culture you were brought up into. If someone says, no, I'm feeling fine, I guess it's kind of like a girlfriend boyfriend thing situation, but
Mhm, mhm,
even
mhm.
friendships, I feel like that exists. And you were like, sometimes if I just say like, I want to be left alone, like sometimes it doesn't mean I want to be left alone. I actually like want to hang out with you and like I'm just in a bad mood, but I want to be together and we can like watch something or like walk I don't know, walk somewhere
I
together.
feel like I feel like Matt needs to hear this exact portion.
Wait, why? Which one are you now?
I'm still that with Matt.
But I feel like that was really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, I also have another memory. I have a memory where
Mhm.
someone was throwing a party and I asked you, I was like, do you want to go? And I think you either had a quiz or something due the next day. And so your guilty conscience is obviously like, oh, I shouldn't go. Like I should stay
Mhm.
home and finish this
Mhm.
project or do this homework, whatever. So I think you were saying, no, I shouldn't go. You're trying to fight yourself. And I think you were hoping for me as a friend, I'd be like, dude, come
Uh,
on. Like, I want you to come. Like, let's go. Like, I really want to go to this party with you. Like, I'll come back and we can do homework together. Like, something more
uh-huh,
supportive. But I
uh-huh.
was like, oh, okay. I'll see you tomorrow or something. And I remember you didn't react, but then another friend, a third friend, whoever it was like, wait, Eunjee, like, why? Just come for a little bit, like, come for 40 minutes, and then you can come back and finish your work. And you were like, okay. And I remember thinking, wait, why did she tell me she doesn't want to come when the other friend asked she wanted to come?
Mm,
So I think I remember learning,
mm,
like, oh, Eunjee's a little bit more complex. There's more that goes on in her
yes.
brain that as a friend, I should try to sift through sometimes instead of just taking it as face value. Like
Mm.
that was a big lesson I still remember learning. And that party one is a big memory. More than like our fights, I remember feeling really bad. I was like, oh, she wanted me to be like, wait, just come, like, just pull you along. And even though you're kind of saying you don't want to come.
That's really helpful to hear because it could be the Korean part,
Hmm.
but actually that's very Enneagram 2-ish of like,
Oh,
like kind of repressing what you want to say or like your needs and like, but you actually want someone to say what you want to say. Like, I think that's
yeah.
something a lot of twos actually do. And so hearing that
Oh,
out loud is quite interesting to hear
yeah.
because like that is something like we have to practice. It's like we speak for ourselves, like because then I think I notice sometimes too, it's like, oh, well, she told me to do this, or, and so it almost also relieves pressure or blame from you as well, right?
Mm.
Like if in that situation, it sounds like, oh, I needed to do my homework. Oh, but my friend kept telling me to go. Like
Oh.
I could easily hear that in my clients or something, or in someone else saying, like, oh, in that you're also not the one at fault if you didn't do your quiz. I don't know. Like those are things I'm hearing as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but as
Ah.
I'm listening, that's quite interesting to hear. And like, and then, one of the things I want to do is see how to bridge the Enneagram with like Asian Americans, Korean Americans. And I can see how that's very much a cultural thing of like not saying what you really want,
Yeah,
but then like,
I didn't even ever connect it back to, oh, Unji's just she's so complicated, it's bad. Or like
yeah,
obviously I
yeah,
didn't know what an Enneagram was at the time. But I remember
same.
reflecting on it years later after we had graduated and being like, oh, Unji's just so Korean. Like, because to your point,
Mhm,
that's a
mhm,
very
mhm.
Korean thing. Like,
Right, right, right.
and Koreans never always say like someone's doing the dishes, like, oh, let me do the dishes. They're gonna say no multiple times, even though maybe
Mhm,
deep
mhm,
down
mhm.
they actually could use the help with the dishes,
Right,
and that is
right.
a very
Yeah.
Korean thing. So I was like, Unji's very Korean. Like I just in that specific area that I'm really not. So I was like, I should have learned that faster. And I feel like other people are like that too. More people,
Mhm.
especially Korean Americans, are like that
Yeah.
too.
No, and like in like the even in when I like get really biased data, it is like a lot of twos and threes in my little data, right? And that's like
Mm,
very but when you see these things of like Enneagrams twos and Enneagram threes who like really need to do and like kind of
yeah,
not look a certain way or
yeah,
like seem selfless or whatnot,
yeah,
that is very aligned with our culture. And so
yeah.
I feel like you just unlocked a
W-
kind of
What's funny about you
aha.
saying that about Matt is that this is
Uh-huh.
something huge that Hannah and I have always talked about too in our marriage.
Right.
Because I,
And you always say how you're the man.
I'm the
Sorry,
man.
not always, Hunter, just sometimes.
Yeah, but it's something he and I have talked about a lot because he is also so Korean in that way. And I think that's just the
Mhm.
family, his family culture, how he was brought up.
Right,
And so
right.
sometimes, especially early on in our marriage, he would say one thing, but deep down he would want another. Like maybe
Mhm.
like
And he's a 3,
yeah,
yeah.
some stupid example like dishes, for instance. He says no, but actually he wants me to kind of fight him and then, do it. Something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember also in marriage to being like, you know what? Thank God I have Eunjee because it helps me understand it better.
If only I knew I was grooming you for Hunter. Literally always just took my time, whatever. I love it. I love you guys. Yeah, I think for me, what was the question? Similarities and
Similarities and
differences.
differences between us.
Yeah, I would say it is kind of exactly what you touched on is I
Mm.
was more complicated than it seemed. Or even the similarities was like the bubbliness, the it was nice to do like, oh, like you also like doing like facilitating things or
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
like emceeing stuff, like sometimes I'm like, is that like not vain, but I was like, is it weird that I like doing that stuff? But then like you also like doing that stuff. So it felt really shared. Like
yeah. Yes.
kind of something I've been doing in therapy is like, what are some values? And like one of mine is like, I like to feel excited, like excited and hopeful is something I really enjoy. And I feel
Mm.
like you would match that. So it made the life things, like whether it was in our ministry or different things, like
Yeah.
it made it fun because I
Yes.
was like, oh, Steph is also excited. Like this makes me excited to still feel excited, if that made sense. And so
Yeah.
I think that was a really good way of just like enduring college years where we had no idea like what the heck we were doing.
Yeah.
And so I still remember that. And I think that's, our personalities allowing that to just kind of be empowered. A big difference was I think you grew up with all girls in your family or pretty much,
Mm.
and I think sometimes like with when it was you and me, I really enjoyed that friendship. When it was like a group of girls in general, I felt like I that was still an area I wasn't comfortable in general. Like
Mm.
I didn't know what it looked like to have a group of girlfriends. I didn't know what it looked like to have conversations about certain topics or like once it became something that I had no idea like
Mm-hmm.
how to contribute. I also felt like, oh, I don't really know what to say or like I wonder if like I'm necessary in this group, like
Yeah.
sometimes came to mind, if that makes sense. And one thing about you that's different is you're also very good at not code switching, but you're very good at Korean crowds. Like you had a lot of
Oh,
fob
yes,
friends,
yes, yes.
and then you're very American as well. So like these are like not personality differences, but just the ways that like it was different for us.
Yeah.
And so you were able to kind of like shapeshift in your own way with those friend groups. And so I think that was something I admired, like that you were able to be fluent in your language but still talk to your parents in English. Because I also only talk to my parents more in English than Korean,
Yeah.
which you kind of were able, like your parents are really good at English too, which
Yeah.
is a way I connected with you,
Yeah.
but you were also like really good at Korean. And I was like, oh, that's a really great trait that I'm sure my parents also wish I could have,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I think that was like a props to you kind of
Oh,
thing.
wow. Thank you.
Um, yeah, you're welcome, which is, I guess, how Trasuni is coming to life over here.
Yeah, I guess it speaks
Um,
through the content, huh?
I mean, if we start to allude to a little bit in the like senior year of college, you had one more semester.
Yes.
And
Stayed
I
one
think
more
in that
semester.
semester, I was teaching back in Dallas. And I think somehow I found out like you were considering kind of falling out with me, like falling out in friendship. I don't know if
Yeah,
you remember
I
that.
do.
You
I
know,
don't remember
yeah,
where we were though. Like where you were and
yeah.
where I was, I don't remember.
When you told me that you weren't going to do it anymore, but you were telling me that at one point you were considering that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like I was so hurt because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, like you would throw away our friendship, like I
Mm-hmm.
think like in that sense, and I think like I've talked to actually, I think it's a 2 and a 7 thing, right? Like twos might also not have boundaries of when like enough, like when something is hurtful for you, maybe
Mm-hmm.
like still continuing to be in a friendship or relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But for it could be that for a 7 or not, but there were times when maybe just me or me and Hannah together, sometimes we could have more like a critical mouth. Um, can Hunter stop opening the door?
It's
um,
It's close enough.
But I think, like, in those senses, I also realized where you are able to cut ties? I don't know if that makes sense, and I'm glad you didn't. And you
Yeah.
can talk more on that if you
No,
want,
I
but I think
do.
that was like a I remember that time.
Okay, and you want to hear something? This is an
Yeah.
interesting topic for me because this is still relevant today. Meaning,
Mm.
so
And we've talked about this before too,
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
I
My
remember.
memory of that conversation between you and me, I remember where I was. I was at home, like at my parents' house
Mm,
when we were talking about it. I
mm.
think I called you or something,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember if like where you were based, if you had started teaching it. Like I don't remember those details, and I don't remember the details of like why we talked about it or why I felt that way at one point. But in general, there is a pattern with me and friendships. So I feel like I have been hurt by friends, but rarely have I been hurt where it's so deep that like I can't come and talk to you about it or call you out about it, or I'm just suffering by myself. It's not that kind of a hurt. I think it's more of, let's go back to the example of the more Enneagram 2 sides of you, where, sometimes
Mhm,
you just
mhm.
need a little bit more support, or like you just want someone to show that love for you in that way, and sift
Right.
through more of what you're trying to say, right? Like you look for that. And I think I felt like if I keep hurting Eunjee, because you'll also come to me and be like, Steph, how come X, Y, and Z? Like that really hurt me, or how come X, something. And I
Mm,
remember
mhm.
feeling like I don't know how to be a good friend to Eunjee. I don't know how
Mm,
to take in all this and support and love her the way that I think she deserves and any friend should do. So, and I feel like I always get to that point, and that's when I'm kind of like, maybe the friendship isn't worth it, because if I keep
mm.
hurting her and then in return that also kind of hurts me whenever she like says something to me, what are we doing? Like what is this,
Right.
right? And so I remember feeling that, and I remember having that feeling with Hannah too. And I remember feeling the same thing with Hannah. It was never like she did X, Y, and Z, I'm so hurt, I cannot be friends. It was more like we keep having tension, and I don't even
Yeah.
know, it's like tiny tiny little things all over the place. And we were living together at the time. I remember also feeling
Mhm,
this with Christy. I don't even know if I've actually
mhm,
told Christy. I probably have, but we also live together, and she's one of my best friends even today,
mhm,
and there's these things that happen. I feel like sometimes I feel very like I just can't do enough as a friend. And me
mhm,
myself, I'm almost like the opposite of a two. And I remember we talked about this. Like
mhm,
I'm almost so
mhm.
selfish where I'm like, I cannot give myself that much to someone, and I'm gonna be so miserable. Like, and that sounds so
And
bad.
then that comes back to your core fears of, like, having that, like, limited and emotional
Maybe. Yeah. And
limitations.
I think that's why it was so healing to hear more about sevens and kind of how we're wired and what we desire, because
Mhm,
I relate to that. And when I feel so, oh shit, I can't be the friend that they need, then I'm like, then why are we friends? Which is such a shitty friend
mm.
already to even think that kind of thought. But it's a pattern in my life for sure.
Mm. Recently, I think I've asked you that question in general, like, if it came to this, would you not want to be friends with X person, not
Mm,
even me anymore? And
mm,
I think before that, I was always scared. I think especially because when you told me that, then you moved to LA. And I think even
yes.
though you
Okay.
chose
This is yes.
and you still chose to be my friend. It wasn't like you were telling me I was going to, like you
Yeah.
weren't even threatening or saying this was actually something I was struggling through, but I want to be friends, but that was something I
Yeah.
had once thought.
Yeah.
And I think though for me being a two, and I was just like, I think I was scared, like as you left, I think even though we were still good friends, I wasn't as confident in our
Mm,
friendship. So
mm-hmm.
I think, and then as distance happens and then like we're not in the same city
Mm-hmm.
anymore, that then naturally or like organically affects like the intimacy of our friendship
Yeah.
because we can't really necessarily be the same.
Yeah.
And I think that was something I did like hold on to wondering. And I think it was only until recently I was like, oh, it wasn't something to take personally, right? It's like how each of us respond in different ways. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was helpful to like realize that and how to like, yeah, still be myself and also understand that doesn't mean it's on anyone else to hold space for me, but my like for me to do that first. And then,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know if that makes
No,
sense,
it
but I think
does.
that was
It makes
helpful.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something I still struggle with in terms of friendship. Like how much of myself do I give? Because if I give too much, I really do feel like I start to be like, do I want to continue this friendship? I feel like I'm the only person wired this way. Truly, I look around and everyone else that I know that are really good people, they're willing to stay and fight and grind for that friendship. I don't know why I feel so selfish in this manner. I don't know. It's still something like I told you, it's so relevant to me even today that I think about a lot.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. Well, I mean, thanks for responding to this, I guess not harder memory, but it was like something that was a difference in like, or like more of like a rougher spot in
Yeah.
friendship. And I
Yeah, and
appreciate.
even at the time, like I didn't even know until years later when you brought it up that, oh, you know
Mhm,
that conversation? I feel like I had kind of forgotten it because I had
mhm,
it was buried or it was so heavy and then I lifted it off to you by telling you
mhm,
and
mhm,
then I was
mhm.
free. You know, I was like, oh, it's not
Yeah.
my problem and we're still friends, like bye. And I really think I forgot versus now I had passed it on to you and you were left with this, oh my gosh, she really felt that
Mhm,
way, which is so sad because I remember Hannah telling me something similar too, where she was like,
mm,
honestly, after you told me that, like you were reconsidering the friendship, I just like it cut such a deep wound in her. She was like, I don't even know if I ever recovered fully. Like, and I felt so
mm,
bad, but it's something that I also like try not to say and to
mhm,
hold down, but
mhm.
it just it comes out. I don't know, and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, there's no solution.
yeah.
There's no conclusion to this story other than that I'm still
Yeah,
here.
and I think it is the awareness of that, and it's like I think because we appreciate you as a friend and to affirm that part of you. But
Yeah.
I know us, heart triad, twos and threes. We're in the heart triad. We have a lot of feelings,
Mhm.
so I'm sure that's a lot for you
Wait,
as
wait.
you.
What's the triad? Two, three.
2, 3, 4 is heart triad, the feeling center, and your 5,
Uh,
6, 7, which is the head triad, where it's more like the anxiety is something you would be
uh,
struggling with more, just more in like
makes
the
a lot
head.
of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think even that is something that is so different for us, which is why
Yeah.
Hannah and I probably can understand those things,
Yeah.
while it was probably like, you're like, "What the frick?" sometimes.
Yeah. No, really.
Yeah, okay, so then as our friendship has changed, right, like, yeah, what have you noticed with the friendship change?
I was thinking about this as I was reading the notes you sent me. But I still look back on our friendship and it's like one of my greatest gifts, especially as I was a single woman in my 20s. Even if we were in different states, there was always you. No, without a
Mhm.
doubt, for sure. For me at least. But you changed a lot when you became a mom in a really good way. Like our friendship changed, I think, when after you had Jaden a lot. And I say this
Mm.
because you just felt more grounded. I mean, I guess maybe this happens for all moms. I don't know. But back then, if everything was a big deal, now, like, nothing was a big deal to you. And
I see
so,
what you're saying, yeah.
yeah, like back then,
Mhm.
if let's say small things were a big deal, and whether it was between us or between you and someone else, and we're talking about it, it's like a whole thing. Now it's not even worth a conversation because you're like,
Mhm, mhm.
that's so dumb. I have literally have to feed and keep my child alive. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I really felt like after you became a mom, you became like a almost like a 언니, like comfort, like peace figure for me, if that makes sense. Just someone I can go to. And you already are so busy with your life, you don't even have time to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like you don't have
Mhm,
time to like deal with all my stuff when I was single still. But in
mhm.
a good way where you can like listen to me and like give me advice, take care of me, and you stay grounded and leveled. And yeah, I saw a huge shift in our friendship and dynamic. I think after you became a mom for sure, in a really good way. And maybe it's also just because I admire you more for all the different things that moms have to do and go through. So yeah, I don't remember what you asked.
I don't either. Oh, how did our like the friendship change? Yeah, I would speak to that too. I feel like in the past handful of years, I don't even feel as insecure about our friendship. Whereas, like, I think when we did start to live in different states, I became sad. I was like, oh, like, Steph was one of my best friends.
Yeah,
And, like, now it just, like, inevitably, like, with life, like, even if we still love each other so much, like,
yeah,
it wouldn't be, like, actually practical to say, like, like, that's the only
yeah,
friend that you would, like, cling on type of thing. And I think that was, like, hard for me because you and Hannah were there, and
yeah,
I think seeing that, and I have FOMO in general, like, and obviously when you left, you also said you might not have been my friends. I was like, okay, what the fuck? So I think like in general, that did create the insecurity thing. And then I think for me, a huge regret was when I moved to San Antonio. And, that's like a story that I'm sure if listeners have heard as my marriage journey with Matt, like because that was like a really big struggle of insecurity as well. I also feel like I couldn't be that friend that I felt like was my strong suit in terms of like checking in as much or like even visiting when I wanted to, because like I was always immersed in my relationship and became
Mm,
kind of like that. And I think like that is something that I always regret. It's not that that would have made us the bestest of friends, but I think
mhm,
it, like I would have been willing to like go to trips with you guys too or something if like I could drop everything. But I think I
mhm,
was so immersed in trying to earn this other type of love.
mhm,
That's like the biggest regret factor for like me as a girl. Like I wish I was still able to cling on and value female friendships at that time.
mm.
Yeah, and so I
That's
think
so
like it
interesting. That's
makes
like
sense.
so not how I felt. That's why it's so
Yeah,
funny to
thank
hear it from
Oh,
you.
great. Yeah, it's just not something that would weight on my heart a lot of times. Fine.
Because for me, like when you say you're insecure about our friendship, I never felt insecure. Maybe again, it's because I burdened you with that and left to LA. But I never
Yeah, and
felt
I think
insecure. And I mean, I think throughout my entire time in LA, like you were still one of my best friends. Yeah, I just like it wasn't even a question for me. I don't know.
I think for me, some of the ways I feel like not just you, but Hannah too, and I feel like I was gonna tell her this at one point, but like
Hmm.
I feel like I couldn't show up for you guys emotionally to celebrate you guys in certain ways. Like when Hannah's like bachelor party or bachelorette, like when she was getting married is like such an exciting thing. But I was like reminding myself, oh, but like your guy didn't want to, like kind of things. Like I think emotionally, like
Hmm.
even though I loved you guys, like I think inside I was like, oh, I'm not emotionally celebrating to the place I know I would want to for a friend in certain ways. And I think
Mm.
those were things that made me like self guilt, like, and like with the heart triad, you also struggle with shame and guilt, and that kind of eats at you. And I think
Yeah.
those were the things that make sense to me, where like, then I was like, oh, well, I don't deserve to be their friends as much because like I'm not showing up and things like that. And so when I hear you now say like the groundedness is evident as a mom, because yeah, also as a mom, I have no time to care as much. Like I
Hmm.
still care, but like I'm just like, you know what? I just have to believe I have these friendships, and then like I have to move forward. And I also don't have time to make a million friendships. And so
Maybe that's
I
what it
remember
is. Maybe that I
yeah,
got
like I
that
remember
feeling from
loving
you.
yeah, and so I think for me on my end, what I'm hearing is that maybe that is a shift where it's like I know Hannah and Steph were really good friends for me in high school, in college, and so
Hmm.
even if there was some weird grays in this season, I'm going to say those were great friends, and I need to just continue to cling on to that and not worry about whatever's going on in my mind,
Yeah.
which I think happened a lot, which is my own like personal journey.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I'm getting really real up in here.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me because I remember you telling me just struggling with community in San Antonio
Right,
and female
right.
friends and all of this stuff. And that's what broke my heart. You know what I mean? I didn't
Mhm,
ever think
mhm.
about you, or you did tell me, you opened up to me that you feel sad because like Hannah and I are far away,
Yeah,
and like, and your other girlfriends were also far away in other states
right,
and other
right.
cities and doing different things. So, in that sense, I was just thinking, oh, and is probably lonely because yeah, she's dating this guy, but she's such a big friend and community person, and so many of her
Mhm,
closest friends are like so spread out now. But I never
mhm,
thought about it as a like an insecurity for you, just because I
mhm.
just felt so secure in our friendship. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say the word insecurity, but you started it from the beginning of the podcast. So I guess like yeah, guys, like that's something I do struggle with, and I think that's helpful
but not
to
anymore, right? Like I said, after you become a mom, I really feel like you don't.
I think that will be a natural struggle for me, it sounds
Mm,
like, And so, and mainly insecurity in the relationships, not so much like myself or like, my like, I don't know, academic abilities or athletic ability, not
mhm,
like that kind of
mhm,
insecurity, but in my standing with friendships,
mhm,
which is a huge like Enneagram 2 type of thing, I think.
mhm.
Yeah, so now I have so many other things that just take precedence
Yeah,
that I have to just like move forward, you
yeah.
know?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess like in that strand of topic, why is it so important? One, that these friendships you considered killing are not killed. Like they're actually still,
Mm-hmm.
some of the closest ones for you.
Mm-hmm.
But why are strong and healthy female friendships so important for us to have today?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a,
This is also your question, by the way,
I know.
guys. She was like, I need to add this to the end of it. And I was like, okay, yes, great. I will. You want to give credit?
I've thought about this a lot, and I've talked to a handful of people about this, women, about why
Mhm.
female friendships are so important. To be honest, I put that question down and see, and I don't even have like a solid answer. It's something I wanted to discuss with you because we were going to talk about friendship. For instance, like I have a friend who talked about how she recognized that she only had guy friends to in a new city she had moved to or whatever, and it made her really sad, and she wanted to find a good group of girls. And for me, I'm the opposite. I get along with guys. I love guys. I have guy friends, but I've never been that girl to just like have a bunch of guy friends. Because like I said, I'm
Mhm.
interested in non-girly, non-manly things. So I don't really have that much to talk to them about. So I never understood that side, but I'm like, is it just because maybe after the guy gets married, generally like you kind of lose him anyway. So it's not a forever
Mhm.
friendship, especially if you and the wife aren't very close. For him to stay BFFs with you might be a little,
Right.
I don't know, weird. So is that why? Is it because guy friendships are so temporary and transient? Or is it just because girls, you can talk about things like periods and I don't know, sex. I really don't know.
Yeah.
It's been so interesting to me because I've met so many. Okay, this is another hot take I was gonna say. I feel like a lot of my girlfriends who really love me and have gotten close with me, like I feel like they are attracted to me in a certain way of the friendship that I offer. A lot of them are girls who struggled with girlfriends.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, interesting." Yeah.
It's so
Well,
weird.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I
Oh,
like thought
interesting.
about
Yeah.
this the other day. I was last year, I looked back on all of my close friends and I was just looking for a pattern. I was like, there's clearly a pattern of girls around me that struggled with female friendships and that end up getting
Mhm.
really close to me. And that's why I want to explore this. I'm like, what
Yeah.
about female friendships is so interesting? Maybe what do I offer? Maybe I have a feminine energy that's safe that maybe other girls at teenage years was more toxic. And I also remember, and you and I talked about this a lot when we first got close. You
Mhm.
were like, I have a lot of girlfriends and they're great, but it's
I
bumpy
got hurt.
and you have
Mhm.
wounds. You were like, I have a lot of wounds from female friendships. And I was
Mhm.
like, huh? Like, I did too. I mean, I have high school drama too, but I was like, but yours seemed so real and deep. So yeah, this is just that question is just has been on my mind, like female friendships, even female
Yeah.
friendships in motherhood, after marriage, as a wife, like
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, like right now, I think growing up, I had a lot of close guy friends, whether it be because my brother had friends come over and like I naturally tried to become friends with them. Or for me, I don't have interest in many girly, like if we like label as girly things, right? Like
Mm,
I don't. And my interests really are in more like guy things, I guess. And so I find myself bored when it became like, group of girls talking about certain things I just didn't know.
yeah,
Like I can get checked out of those conversations
yeah,
versus like a sports conversation or like watching a game or like playing games while talking.
yeah,
And I think like it might have been something I did pride myself. I think a guy's girl tends to say they're a guy's girl and it's like
yeah. They're
something they
very
put
proud of it.
and I remember like alluding to the guy that I called to save me from the soju night. Like I remember he was someone I kind of talked to for a second and I
Uh-huh.
I said like I have all these guy friends, and he was just like, well, that sucks for you. And it was very like blatant. Like I was like, oh, why? It's like, well, you won't have any friends later. And I was like, oh. And I think like
Uh,
when he said that, I think that was when I also was like, oh, I need to cling on to girlfriends and make good girlfriends. And that's hard
mm,
for me. Oh, Steph actually seems like she knows what she's doing around in the girlfriends arena. Let me just like follow her in this area. And like
okay.
even you've never felt insecure once in the girl friendships, and it sounds like all of us feel insecure.
I
So
don't.
maybe we clung on to that confidence. I don't know,
Okay,
like
wait, can I say something else?
yeah.
Can I call these young girls out who pride themselves in having a lot of guy friends?
Yes, call me out 10 years, 12, 15 years
I
ago.
also feel like those girls like had a bunch of guys. like, or had like boyfriends. Like, okay, do you know what I mean? Like, they prided themselves in being tomboy, but at the end of the day, they were also very flirty. And that's as girly as you can be. Let's
Mm.
be real. Like, if you can flirt with a guy, like, that's pretty freaking girly. If you're a girl who can't really romantically talk to guys and you have all guy friends, you're a true tomboy. This does not apply to you. But if you're a girl who likes
Yeah.
guy things, but you can flirt and maybe not like the cutesy way, but in your own way you can, and you talk to a lot of guys romantically, or you have a long-term boyfriend, or whatever it is.
Mhm,
And
mhm, mhm.
it confuses me a little bit. I'm like, but
Mhm.
then you're not a guy's girl because most of those guys don't even see you as a guy. Like they see you as a girl.
Right, right,
You know what I
right, right.
mean?
I see
Like
that,
almost a
yeah.
more attractive girl because you like the stuff they
Mhm.
like. So I remember like it didn't ever bother me in college, but like way later, I think honestly on TikTok, because like now I watch all these teenagers talk about drama and stuff. I'm like, and they talk about that a lot. They're like the guys, girls, and I was like, oh, that is really interesting. I agree with that. I really
As
do.
someone listening to this, and I agree with what you're saying, I also wanna share my perspective for those listeners who
Yeah,
might,
I want to know.
feel that. It's like, yeah, for me, it's like I had very close guy friendships. I distanced myself if that guy started to have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Some of my close guy friends also distanced themselves when I was dating in high school, at least like my closest guys, which was like hard. And I think that's when I should have realized like, oh, I get sad when my guy friends and I have to have more of a distance because at the end of the day, they were my friends, right? And
Mhm.
like, you do have to draw lines when you
Mhm.
are in a
Romantic.
romantic
Mhm.
relationship. And so I think those are important. I would say besides maybe my first guy crush in middle school that I thought was my friend, but I actually liked him. Other than that, I wouldn't say I actually liked any of my guy friends. But
No,
some
I
people
don't think
could,
you
you
like the
know?
guy friends, but you're still are popular and you still also talk to a lot of guys. It's not like you're totally not
Ah,
interested in guys. You know what I mean?
right, right,
Like,
right, right.
yeah.
And I'm not trying to be defensive. I'm also trying to respond for both perspectives. So like
No,
it
that's
makes sense.
exactly what I wanted.
At the end of the day, I would agree with you
Yeah.
that just, don't do those things. It affects you later. And like even like me and Matt, we're okay that we have some guy and girl friendships,
Yeah.
but just because we're okay with that for each other, it doesn't mean that guy's wife or that guy's girlfriend is okay with that, even
Yeah.
if I am married or even
Yeah.
if Matt is married. And so at the end of the day, it gets too complicated
Yeah.
and you
And
lose those
you
friendships.
also never blurred that line between friend or guy. Like I felt like you were
Yeah,
really good at that, but there's also there's girls who struggle with that.
yeah, yes, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
I would say you were exceptionally good at that for the number of guys friends that you had, and not a lot of girls, especially girls in their late teens and early to mid 20s, I think still are figuring that out.
Yeah, and I think I would just recommend making more friends your gender at a younger age because like then you have more practice. Like here I am in my 30s trying to have like, wine nights with like seven girls and then that's foreign to me, like and I'm like, wow, I just like never had practice like that,
Yeah,
like to
but do
do
you
that
like
in my
it?
group. I do. I enjoy it. I've never left that night feeling like, oh, I wish it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like I do enjoy it. And I'm learning even like skincare, it's not a girly thing, it's a healthcare thing, and
Yeah.
like it's helpful for me to listen to those things, reshift my mind on those things. And I just encourage you to do this at a younger age because I mean, all my guy friends, I love them, but I can't talk to them as
So
in the same
do you
way.
feel like you and I could come to the main conclusion that maybe female friendships are so important because it can really be forever versus guy friendships you can't guarantee forever because in the case
Right.
that you get married, maybe they don't vibe with your husband or something, or you don't vibe with their wife.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. I agree.
I've
Unless
wondered
it was
that,
like
you know?
if everyone was childhood friends, or if
Yeah,
everyone's
if
from
I'm
the
in the same
same group of
group.
friends. Yeah,
Yeah,
like that's a rare case, which is like some group of friends I know.
yeah,
But other than that, it's rare to find that. And
yeah,
so you can be intentional with couple friendships, because like I do like guy presence too, like just
Yeah.
in general, like the topics and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I think trying to, like, at the end of the day, you might get married, not all will, but like you might get married, someone else might get married, someone else might be dating, like,
Yeah.
it's not as organic. Something I heard from my mentor is like, even write down a list of girls that you want to be friends with, like pray over them, like see what you want to like embody about them, or like
Mm,
how you want to pursue them in friendships in different seasons. Like, when you're struggling and you, Steph, don't live in the same city, like someone else is going to have to speak that life or that truth in me when I can't, because I
mm,
am in a struggling season, right? And rather than that being a guy, or if your husband can't do it because it's a marital problem, there are strong female friendships, and that is like the empowering part and like the gift of that, I
yeah.
think. And I think at an early age, it was like, oh, she likes the same guy I do, or this blah blah blah
Oh,
blah,
like
and like
early
those
teenage
things.
dramas. Uh-huh.
Right, and that can affect just, like, how you view girl stuff
Yeah.
later, and
Yeah.
so hopefully
Yeah, I
that's,
feel like Christy and I had talked about this too, because she had struggled with female friends for a while. She also said the same thing, just like, sure, like we can label it as drama, but the wounds there that like a girlfriend causes versus a guy friend is so different. And
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's true. I never thought about it that way either. I was gonna ask also, do you feel like this really strongly applies to us and our communities because of Christianity, like our faith and the things that come with what you believe in for like a God guided marriage
Mhm,
versus, let's say, someone who's not religious at all? Like, I wonder if this all
mhm.
applies too. No?
Yeah, no, that is a good point. I'm sure, right, like, non-Christian or, might have a different view for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much gray that can happen, that, like, with the faith that we do share, yeah, like how to, set your marriage up for success, which is, like the utmost priority, is where this also,
Yeah.
would be my answer. I've had some very candid conversations with other girlfriends, or even like a friend of mine who had a significant other I was close with, and like she and I are close too, but it was almost like she did share like, yeah, it was weird that you, like, he was really speaking highly of you as a friend, nothing more,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like, even just as a friend, if your significant other knows that you, male, have a girlfriend that you would trust with everything, like that creates
Mm,
like a jealousy thing that's not even,
mm,
it's not even a romantic jealousy, but like, I should be that friend that you confide in, and like and like anything that causes insecurity or doubt in a marriage is not worth it, because that is meant to be held so sacredly, I think.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I asked this because I remember one time I brought up to someone like a coworker, who's not religious at all. Great person. Like his wife was also great. They have a child and everything. Much older than me and much more experienced in life, right? And I was really young. I think I was fresh out of college, and I mentioned something like that. Like, if you're in a relationship or married, you can't have friends of the
Mhm.
opposite gender, whatever, the intimacy there, right? You got to draw the line. And I remember he was very like, he looked at me like I was really cute when I said that. Like, oh, you're just like in your young 20s. As long as the friendship is healthy, you can have friends and like go have one-on-one lunches with them. And, like
Mm,
there's no
mm.
need to restrict like a boundary there of, guy-girl friendship
Right.
boundaries. So I was,
I think that I would be interested, if people are listening, like what you guys might also think is,
yeah.
just your perspective, which is welcome. Like, I want
Yeah,
to
because
hear
I
that.
wonder if Christian girls or Christian guys, that's why the emphasis on having female friends or guys having guy friends, there's such an emphasis there because of marriage and the traditionalism that comes from that,
Mhm.
versus maybe from more of a secular perspective, it's more fluid. Emphasis on female friendships versus male friendships.
Is that ever something you and Hunter had to talk about? Like, since Matt and I did naturally have like some closer opposite sex friends, it was a conversation we had at
Yeah,
different times, like check-ins. I don't know if that's something.
not necessarily, because I think both Hunter, like, he was flirty too. I mean, I think his thing was he was a guy's guy, but he like had a lot of girlfriends too. But
Mhm, mhm.
his actual friends, I think, were all guys, and his female
Yeah.
friends that he would actually consider someone to be like really close to him, it kind of naturally fizzles when they also start dating and they have a
Right.
boyfriend and
Right.
they're not going to text him all the time either. So I felt like it
No.
kind of naturally fades from it. And then for me, I like really don't have that many guy friends. And because the majority of my friends are female, I feel like we naturally kind of didn't have to deal with that. But I wonder if we did, yeah, what that conversation could have looked like. But I guess because both of us are Christian too, maybe it,
It's an like a underlying
yeah, like
known
there's an underlying theme
thing.
of like understood. And my parents are traditional and Catholic. His parents are traditional and Christian. Like we
Yeah.
grew up in
Yeah.
those households, so it's probably just like subconsciously embedded in us too. Like me seeing my mom have a guy friend going to grab lunch with him, like I can't even imagine that. An
Right. Right.
ajushi
Same.
friend that she's like catches up with. I honestly, she
Yeah.
has college friends from like Korea, but she's also really close to their wives now. Like she almost
Right.
talks to their wives, not even him. So yeah, it's like it's so culturally embedded in me, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think another point is like, as you are in a marriage or a relationship, there is inevitably a time where that guy or that girl will not meet the needs you have, whether it's like a connection need or like deep talking with you or
Mm,
I don't know, like something like
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like let's say that was something that was happening and then I was having deep talks with someone else. Or let's say that like Matt wasn't able to do like was never able to clean the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like maybe he just sucked at that. And that
Mm-hmm.
was like always his trigger point. And whenever we had a close guy friend, he always did the dishes for me. If
Mm-hmm.
that like was constantly something I saw,
Mm-hmm.
that could create this like, oh, but he does this. Like, oh,
Mm,
like even if it wasn't meant to be in that way, like
mm-hmm.
what your spouse or partner lacks, because inevitably they will lack it, like they do
Mm,
not have all.
mm-hmm.
And if you're surrounding yourself with that opposite sex who might have that thing that you want,
Mm-hmm.
it could also create this like, oh, I can get it here, or like, oh, let me go to my spouse for everything, but deep talk, let me go here
Mm-hmm.
because this guy's my, I don't know. And then that gets dangerous of where your heart goes, even if it's not romantic,
Yeah.
it could lead a weird way.
Yeah. It's so interesting because ultimately, really, when we talk about multi-gendered friendships, it ultimately does come down to like a lot of your path leading to marriage. Like just you being,
Yeah.
yeah, in a marriage or someone being in a marriage at some point. I guess in a relationship too.
And if I could give my younger self advice on female friendships, I think it would just being authentically me, in the sense of like, if someone hurt me, like bring it up, or like try to also understand what's going on with them, like maybe
Mm,
they are struggling as well. I think it's easy to just say like, oh, this girl did this, and then like blah, blah, like no room for communication or like
mm-hmm,
understanding.
mm-hmm.
Like even when you say TV shows and like a guy cheated, but somehow you get mad at just the girl and you take the
Mm,
guy back, like I wish like that, not that that happened for me, but like
yeah.
in that sense of like, you give the woman, the female friend, sometimes like less grace in situations. And I
Mm,
wish that was something we learned how to do better. And
yeah.
so
I
I don't have
also
daughters to teach that to, but yeah.
I also feel like female friendships, there's a lot of competitiveness
Right.
unintentionally. Like it
Right.
doesn't even have
Right.
to be boys. It could be like grades. I feel like sometimes you
Hmm.
get more competitive with your same gender friend versus another, I don't know, opposite gender. Like
Yeah.
it happens, I think, for sure. It can be anything. I don't know, like
Hmm.
you both go for, or like let's give an example which never happened to us, but like an MC position for a big event and we both want to do it.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
if you were a
Hmm.
guy, I feel like it's a little less, but then if you're a
Hmm.
girl,
Hmm.
it feels a little bit more like comparing
Yeah.
competitiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. Well, did you ask your husband anything?
Oh gosh, I didn't. But I kind of know what he would say. Wait, okay, I want you to go first.
No, Matt's is very PC. He said, I'd say it's pretty seamless, able to just pick back where you left off quickly, even if it's been a while, and feel as close as ever. Doesn't seem like you guys try very hard to make conversation or
Uh-huh.
talk about shallow or deep things. It just comes naturally. Also, a fun relationship, lots of laughing and very supportive of each other. He probably sees me liking your stuff and laughing at your Trasuni content all the time as to the supportive from afar. But Yeah. That's
Wait,
what
that's
she
not
said.
PC or lame at all. That was
Actually,
actually
yeah,
a
now that
really
I read
good
it,
write-up.
yeah.
That was really
Sorry, Matt. That's
accurate.
actually really good and actually kind of like a way to sum up what we just said.
Dude, Hunter for
TLDR.
sure would say something so stupid. He'd be like, I think you guys need to calm down.
Yeah.
Like, I
I
think
think
you
that's what he
guys need to
said.
stop talking to each other. Like, something stupid like that.
Well, you need to calm down, Hunter.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, you know what? I will say I've really enjoyed in marriage seeing the comfort of like my sisters and my friends with my husband. That's been really nice.
mhm.
Because obviously there's a boundary you don't cross that we all
Yeah.
know, but the closeness can still be there.
Yeah.
And
He does do a great job
oh, you think
at
so?
that. I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes sense is I don't think he's ever like had girlfriends either that were like questionable
Yeah.
because he's just like, yeah, dude, it's like funny and like it's
Yeah.
a nice it matches your presence, but then you
Mm,
go you're deeper with us, so it's like it kind of like makes you guys truly one. So
yeah.
I
Oh.
would agree with that.
Oh.
Yeah, don't tell that to him. uh,
But yeah, so I really enjoy, and I also think the way my friends treat him, like it's
mhm.
y'all's love for me too. You know what I mean? It's like an
Yeah, yeah.
extension of it, and it makes me feel so loved and so supported, and so that's been really cool. Like I feel like I try to reciprocate too to all of my friends and their spouses.
I see
Like
you do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean I won't ever like text someone off unless it's like for a very specific reason, but I try to make sure I also create like there's a trust, like a genuine
Mhm.
friendship there. And like
Yeah.
there's a tunnel there that if they ever need me, they can reach out, which I feel like all my friends husbands know too, and like have shown me they
Yeah.
understand it's there.
Yeah, I think I was always sad like Matt never got a chance to be close to my like college best friends, like
Mm.
significant others, but he will say that about you for sure that like
Oh,
you
you know
always
what's
do
weird
create
is
that
like I
space.
wouldn't say I'm not close to Matt because I
Right,
feel very
right, right, right.
comfortable with him. Like he and I could probably
Yeah.
stay in the same apartment with you like for days and like I wouldn't feel uncomfortable about it, you know?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And for him that like comfort is what matters
Yeah,
most. So,
same with
yeah.
me.
Anything moving forward as friends that we want to do with each other. I'd like you to move to Dallas. One regret for me is that our fondest memories are in college, where it was very youthful and naive in the best ways.
Mm-hmm.
I am sad that we'll never get to like travel together because
Mm,
I got two kids and you can't necessarily travel like that.
mm,
Or, like make those kind of like fun memories. Like
yeah,
camping would be, different things I
yeah,
see you do. I'm like, oh, I wish I could be in the same city to like do a one off type of thing or whatnot. But I know that like if I ever go to Seattle, you guys will open your home and it'll create a memory for like me and Jaden when we visited. And that's like a family memory that I cherish.
yeah,
So I see how you will always be that space, even if the expectation I once wanted of like us traveling together
yeah.
somewhere won't necessarily like make sense for a
Mm,
while.
mm. I know for a fact I'm bad at keeping in touch. I know 100% I'm bad at that. And I've lost touch with so many friends. And like as much as it is my fault, I also don't like I don't feel any negativity towards them too if they haven't reached out either. I mean, it's just life.
Mhm.
It's what happens. So I really feel like I credit you for the sustainability of our friendship for sure,
Mm,
like through our 20s. Like honestly, it's never crossed my mind that like you're not one of my best friends, even if we haven't
mhm.
talked. I'll like hear something from someone like, "Oh yeah, I heard Inja." I'm like, "What? She is?" Like, oh crap, I need to text her, like catch up with her.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that still doesn't make me feel distanced from you, if that makes sense. Because I know if
Yeah.
I talk to you, then I get caught up again.
Mhm.
And so if anything, like there's a regret of because I credit you so much, where I'm sure like you did most of the reaching out. I don't even remember like looking back, to be honest with you. But like I wish I had done more, if that kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
and known more that yeah, like if you were feeling that sort of insecurity just because the distance was there.
Well, there's like 6 spots left on the Stephanie by Trova trip, so make sure you sign up.
Did you check it before recording?
No, I checked it like maybe I'm not checked it, but it like tells me, "Just get your spot fast." I'm like, "Well,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
signed up for October or September, but y'all are going in April." But
Yes.
anyway, I think that's so cool. Like, yeah, just encouraging you to see how like crazy this year has been and like
I
the ways that you've
know.
made trust Suni like a huge thing. It's like amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
But
yeah.
also like coming back to like all this stuff that's happening on Suni and the content stuff. But it's
Yeah.
so fun with my friends, like my close friends and my sisters and family, because as much as you guys are all so proud of me and it's so cool and for you to watch, also like nobody cares that much. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like our relationships haven't changed. Like it's just like wow, and then it's like over like 2 minutes later.
Yeah, I'm glad that's the message you're taking away because that is correct.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it really makes me feel so grounded and so
Yeah.
comfortable because I don't want to get so, I mean, who knows? I could. It still could happen, like where you get sucked into just like,
Mhm.
okay, like views or this or that and like the grind of that. But
Mm.
it's so funny because yeah, I know I know everyone thinks it's so cool and everyone's, but it's like my close friends and my family, like everyone's like, oh, like yeah. Anyway, so what are you and I doing?
But still very proud
Yeah.
that I get to say, "Oh, I know her." She's actually like one of my best friends, actually.
Everyone's like, who's
But
she?
yeah. No, actually, like at my wine night, people like the girlfriends I'm getting close to,
Uh-huh.
they follow you and they say like you're so
Oh,
funny and
really?
just like yeah, it's like
Oh,
really cool to hear. Like,
that is
is it
cool.
like changhada? Is that like the
Uh-huh,
term? Like,
uh-huh.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's the right term,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And hopefully we can have more topics because I have many more topics in
Oh
mind
yeah. I love
to
this.
invite you on.
It's so funny. I also want to share that Eunjee and I, we turned on the camera and turned on this call, and we're purposely not saying hi. Like we're like we need to hold it for the like oh hey hey like okay wait hold on I gotta get my mic okay okay wait when do we record like
I'm
and then
glad
you
you get that
record like
though.
okay
Yeah.
hi.
Save everything. But see, even in that, it's so like you get it,
Yeah,
and I think that was always something. It's like you get it, and it's not fake or rude for me to do what I just did.
yeah,
Which for other, I'd be like, "Hello, like how are you? Okay, are you ready?" It was like
yeah,
I think that makes it so comfortable and so like pure to be fully you, and so
yeah.
I do appreciate that. We would love to hear your thoughts. What kind of friendships you guys have had, struggled
Yes.
with, grown from, and even like the whole guy girl friendship. That is something I wanted to talk more on. So I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
especially with like religion, but also culture.
Yeah, and okay, I wasn't smack like bashing on you by any means. Or
Oh yeah,
did it
yeah,
come off
yeah.
that
No, I
way?
didn't
Because
take
I
it that way.
wasn't trying
No,
to. Okay.
I mean I haven't felt offended at all in this whole. I feel like you brought the realness in a way that we were able to just like talk through things, and
Okay,
so
cool. I want to make sure I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
offend you.
No, this is us making sure. Are we still friends after this call? Okay.
Okay, when are you gonna stop recording this? Because then let's actually talk.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Koller
Koller Commentary.
Commentary. Bye.
Bye.